Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today is the day we look at the Phantom Menace. Now, when you ask people what their favorite Star Wars movie is, the Phantom Menace rarely, if ever, comes up at all. And the arguments for why the Phantom Menace isn't a good Star Wars movie are always the same. It's too political or it has cheesy dialogue. However, I'm here to tell you that the Phantom Menace deserves so much more praise than what it has been getting since its release. And not only is the Phantom Menace one of the most beautiful looking Star Wars movies, but it also introduces us to many characters and planets and places that fans still love today, such as Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, Naboo was introduced in this movie, Coruscant was introduced in this movie. There is so much more new material introduced in the Phantom Menace that we just overlook. And going even further, it gives us some insight into the Jedi and the Republic that we really only heard stories of in the original trilogy. In this video, I want to break down the Phantom Menace to you guys, and hopefully you'll gain a new perspective of the movie. Because with George Lucas, in the prequels, you really have to watch, focus, and pay attention to the movie rather than just looking at it at its surface, because if you do that, then you'll miss so many important things in the movie. And that's why so many people have this perceived notion that the Phantom Menace is a bad movie, when it really isn't. Now, I really want to start off by saying George Lucas did an amazing job showing us these planets and places in a beautiful way. I mean, the Phantom Menace is a cinematographer's paradise. From the skyline of Coruscant with the vehicles zooming around through the skies, and the buildings sticking up through the skyline, to the buildings in Naboo that are so eloquently done and with the amazing landscape around them, to even how Tatooine looked during the pod racing sequence, with the deserts and the rock formations around them. You can't just watch through the Phantom Menace without first admiring these things that George Lucas put before us. I mean, all these places that were shown to us in the movie were very carefully designed, and you can see that in the movie. Everything we saw had a purpose and wasn't just thrown in there to fill the scenery. And just for a second, if we transition and look at the music in the movie, and music is something that's used all the time in movies, especially Star Wars, to help build up scenes and characters. For example, that scene where the Viceroy reveals to Sidious that the Jedi escaped with the Queen, and Darth Maul is revealed to us. During that whole sequence, no music is being played at all until the moment Darth Maul comes into the hologram. The music is kind of ominous and dark, and that gives us insight into his character because at the time, he was mysterious because we didn't really learn too much about him. But what we did know is that he's the villain in the movie, the Sith that was revealed to the Jedi. And to go even further and look at a different moment in the movie, when Qui-Gon and Anakin's mother talk, the Force theme plays in the background. And this isn't something that we should just look over because the Force theme only plays in key moments in Star Wars. And really just looking back at the other movies, when Luke looking over the twin suns set on Tatooine, to Anakin mourning his mother's death back at the Lars homestead, to even Qui-Gon and Padme's funeral, and even Darth Vader's funeral in Return of the Jedi, the Force theme plays. In all these moments in Star Wars where the Force theme plays, they're very key moments because they're very important to the story. And when Qui-Gon and Anakin's mother talk, they're talking about Anakin, and Anakin really becomes one of the main focuses of the Phantom Menace. He isn't the sole focus, but he's one of the main focuses. And it is in this moment specifically where Qui-Gon reveals to us what we already picked up at the beginning of the movie, but Anakin is very powerful in the Force. And Anakin's mother reveals to him that he had no father, and this is where Qui-Gon gets the idea that Anakin was conceived by the midichlorians. And these are the kind of moments that people miss, because if you're only focusing on the dialogue, then you miss so much more than what's happening in the scene, because the music really builds up that scene. And now just to transition and look at lighting. Lighting is something that's very carefully used in Star Wars, all throughout the movies, especially the new trilogy, where it really symbolizes the character's moral stance in like the Force, but it also foreshadows moments that are going to happen in the future. For example, if you look at Qui-Gon specifically, all throughout the movie he's lit up. And that's really to symbolize his stance in the light side of the Force and as the good guy in the story. And the opposite goes for characters like Darth Maul. I mean, most of the scenes that Darth Maul is in happens at night, and that really shows that he's the villain in the story and how ominous and dark he really is. I mean, that's really easy to understand, but with Anakin it's kind of different. And really, all throughout the movie, he's kind of on both sides of that. There are moments when he's really lit up, and there's moments where he's kind of split down the middle, where there's half of his face is dark. And that to me really foreshadows his eventual turn to the dark side of the Force, And you really see this more in episode 2, and that'll be mentioned when I cover that movie, but Anakin is really different in terms of lighting. And this is something that really is covered by Dave Filoni in a series gallery, so I'm not going to pretend like I came up with this on my own. But the fate of Anakin Skywalker solely depended on Qui-Gon, because throughout the movie, Qui-Gon was a father figure to Anakin, while Obi-Wan was basically mad the whole time because he was tired of picking up useless life forms like Jar Jar Binks and Anakin. But to me, this really shows us why Qui-Gon was the master and the best fit to teach Anakin. Because throughout the movie, Qui-Gon is shown to be compassionate and caring for others. You see this in the moment where he tries to rescue Jar Jar from the rest of the Gungans. And being compassionate and caring for others is really important for any master, especially a Jedi, to put your needs ahead of others and teach the next generation. And I think Qui-Gon does this well throughout the movie. And it's the whole reason why Duel of the Fates is called that, because the ending fight determines the fate of Anakin, the child. And as Dave Filoni mentioned, that Obi-Wan trains Anakin as a promise to Qui-Gon, not because he cares for Anakin. And we see this going further into the movies and TV shows, that they become close friends eventually, but Obi-Wan always held Anakin back in some way. If it wasn't for his lack of experience as a teacher, it was his lack of knowledge in the Force really. He was only a Padawan at the time of the Phantom Menace. He was towards the end of the Padawan cycle, but he was still just a Padawan. And all these reasons that I mentioned in this video is why this series is something I wanted to start. Because we all look past very important things that are hugely impactful to the story, like the way the lighting and the music is used to set the mood for the scenes throughout the movie, and especially the scene at the end with Qui-Gon's funeral is absolutely amazing. The beautiful landscapes and buildings of Naboo, the skyline of Coruscant, the hidden Gungan city, and the scene where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are at the Jedi Temple overlooking the sunset further prove to me that The Phantom Menace is a cinematography masterpiece. People can hate the prequels all they want, or they can actually give it another chance and actually look at it and think about it for a second. Like I said in one of my previous videos, there is so much more to Star Wars than the lore, and in the movies there is so much more than the story. So I'm gonna end my video by saying this: go back and watch The Phantom Menace and pay attention. Think about what you're seeing and hearing with the music in the background. There is so much more to The Phantom Menace than just politics and cheesy dialogue.